All right, well, let's go ahead and turn to evaluation questions. So, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that evaluation uses many of the same conventions as research. And actually, if you go back to one of the webinars that we held in the spring, I go a little bit more in detail around this. But what I really want to highlight at this point is that just like in research, when you develop research questions, there are questions that are developed within evaluation. So, in thinking about step two in articulating evaluation questions, what you're varying will not be the presence or absence of the evaluation questions. What you're actually varying will be the number, because you always have some sort of question. The difference is whether that question is explicit or not. And so you want to make sure that you're making your evaluation questions explicit, even if they're just a small number of them. So let's kind of go back to some of the examples that we've been following throughout this webinar. So for the Department of Education grant, the small grant, again, we have the theory of change presented with that if-then kind of conceptualization. And in this situation, we only have three evaluation questions. And this is what they are. So one was related to the implementation or formative evaluation. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then the other questions were more centered around the outcomes of the project. Similarly, with the other Department of Ed project with that improvement grant, that moderate scale, again, you can see the theory of change and it's presented in a sentence. And in this situation, we had 5 evaluation questions. Again, one on formative evaluation, and then the other is more focused on summative evaluation. And then with the large TACT grant, in this situation, we had 20 evaluation questions. So I present 10 of those. The intention's not for you to read all of them, but really what I just want to drive home the point of is that what's going to vary in terms of with size, with evaluation questions, will be the number, not the presence or absence of those evaluation questions. If you go to our recording, you'll be able to obtain these thought prompt questions, and I provide a couple of thought prompt questions around formative evaluation. So you've probably heard that word before, and basically formative evaluation relates to the if part, if we do this, and there's some thought prompts with that. And then summative evaluation relates to the then we will get this. And some, again, thought prompts related to that. So really the take-home lesson here is that just make sure you're scaling the number of evaluation questions for the size of the grant. So let me go ahead and pause there. And Elise, are there any questions?
Yes. What should you do if you have a small grant and a lot of evaluation questions?
Good question. I think that it's really useful if you have a lot of questions to really challenge yourself to really focus in on what you really want to learn. What I get concerned about if you have a small grant, you don't necessarily have a lot of resources associated with that. And so if you start to include a lot of questions, you may introduce complexity that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So really challenge yourself to think about, what do you really want to learn? What would really be beneficial in regards to the next iteration of this project? What would be beneficial to know about the next iteration? And just try to narrow down the number of questions that you have to something that's much more manageable for the resources that you have. Okay. Is there another question?
Yes. Which is better, an in-house evaluation or an external professional?
Another good question. So I'm not I'm going to step back from that question for a moment and just say I'm not sure that it's an issue of internal or external. I think what you really want to make sure that you have is an evaluator, evaluation champion. Someone who's not just there in name only, but someone who is really there to drive the evaluation process. So, for instance, for a lot of the work that we do, we are working with innovative new initiatives, and so we implement what's called developmental evaluation. And so it's really important for us to stay close on projects to be able to effectively implement that evaluation. And I think in that type of situation, it's really important, whether they're internal or external, you have someone on the team who's staying close on the project so that as you're having to make changes around the initiative, they are close on the project to be able to make adjustments in the evaluation and to know, oh, this is a really good time to collect data. We need to understand this piece or to make some adjustments in the project. So if you have individuals who really can serve as that champion, someone who can really tell the story of what the initiative is doing, I think that's the type of person that you want to have on your team. So I'm going to actually have to stop there because we're at time. So just a couple of items. You're going to receive in your email tomorrow a survey about this webinar because I'm an evaluator. So it's, of course, I want to get your feedback for continuous improvement about your experience. So please complete that. And then you'll also receive a link to the recording. So complete that as well. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks where we will move to the next two elements on the methods. And so thank you so much for coming today and have a great day. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.